The first thing you notice inside the cave is the silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of time. Light enters slowly through the mouth of the rock, brushing against the walls. At first they seem ordinary, rough stones shaped by wind and centuries. But then shapes begin to appear. Lines, animals, symbols drawn by hand that lived here long before written history. This is Karin-Heegan, a cave in the hills of the Sanaag region within the Lasqoray district of northern Somalia. To a passing traveler, it might look like nothing more than natural shelter in the cliffs. But for the people who know this place, Karin-Heegan is something very different. It is believed to be an archaeological site, a place where traces of ancient life remain preserved on stone. One of the local historians who guided us here explained its importance simply.
Karin-Heegan waxay ka tirsan tahay degmada Lasqoray ee gobolweynaha Sanaag. Waa degel archaeological site ama dhulka taariikhdii hore la deganaan jiray.
Inside the cave walls are drawings that appear to show animals, landscapes, and fragments of everyday life. They're not random markings, they're records left behind by people who once called this landscape home. Standing inside the cave, the images slowly reveal themselves. Animals appear in motion. Some resemble cattle. Others look like creatures that once moved freely across the valleys of the region. To the people who study the site, these drawings are more than decoration. They're windows into a vanished world.
Xoolihii ay dhaqanayeen, deegaanka ay ku noolaayeen iyo bey'adoodu say ahayd, heerka cilmigoodu gaarsiisan yahay inay qoraal iyo xarab iyo sawir sameeyaan iyagoo noloshooda turjumaad ka bixinaya. Agabka iyo qalabka isticmaalayeen iyo turjumaad ka bixinaya.
For archaeologists, rock art like this often reflect the cultures of early pastoral societies, communities who raised livestock, moved seasonally across grazing lands, and developed complex relationship with the environment around them. These societies did not always leave behind cities or monuments, but they left something else, memory, and sometimes that memory survived in paintings like these.
Waa dad ilbax ahaa oo wax garanayay oo aan taariikhdooda aynaan dib haddaba u guran bay aan ku tilmaami karaa.
In other words, the people who lived here were not simply surviving. They were observing their world, recording it, and leaving behind traces of their identity. Karin-Heegan is not alone. Across the Horn of Africa, caves and shelters contain paintings thousands of years old. Some of the most famous examples lie elsewhere in the Somali peninsula. At Laas Geel, near Hargeisa, Somalia, vivid images of decorated cattle and pastoral life have drawn international attention. The paintings here are among the most striking examples of prehistoric rock art in Africa. Further east along the Sanaag coast, another site known as Dhambalin contains images believed to be among the oldest known depictions of hunters and animals in the region. Together, these discoveries changed how scholars understand the Horn of Africa. They revealed that this region preserves one of the richest visual archives of ancient pastoral societies anywhere in northeastern Africa. The paintings show that communities here were not isolated or culturally simple. They possessed symbolic traditions, ways of recording animals, rituals, and landscapes that mattered to them. Karin-Heegan now belong to that same broader story. According to local researchers, caves like this exist across most of northern Somalia.
Waxaa jira intaasoo godloomida insha allahu tacaala way tegi doonaa dadka khubarada ah ee takhasuska gaar ku ah archaeology-ga iyo dadkeena ka agdhow ee cilmiga ku dhow leh ee deegaanka ka warhaya waxay noqonaysaa in la iskaashado oo cilmi baadhis dhammaystiran la sameeyo si qurux badan oo cilmi ku qotontana loo daafuro.
Many of these places, however, remain largely undocumented. Few have been systematically studied by archaeologists. Some are known only to the communities who live nearby. Rock art is not only about art, it is also about environment. The animals painted on cave walls could offer clues about what landscapes once looked like, what species lived here, what kinds of grazings existed, and how ancient communities adapted to their surroundings. Today, the hills around Karinhagen appear dry and rugged, but thousands of years ago, the climate of northeastern Africa shifted through cycles of rainfall and drought. In wetter periods, these valleys may have supported larger herds of livestock and wildlife. Pastoral communities followed those animals across seasonal grazing lands. The paintings inside caves may preserve fragments of those ecological history. If Karin-Heegan is studied scientifically and its pigments dated, it could reveal when these images were created and what environment existed at the time. Such information could help archaeologists understand how ancient pastoral societies lived across the Horn of Africa.
inay ahayd dhulkii ay Soomaalidii hore joogi jirtay. Soomaalidu mararka qaarkood waxay dhahaan faraacinta ka soo jeeda, laakiin anigu waxaan leeyahay faraacinta ayaa Soomaali ka soo jeeda.
Whether literal or symbolic, the statement reflects something deeper. It speaks to a broader question. Who writes history? For centuries, much of the recorded histories of the Horn of Africa has been written by outsiders, explorers, colonial administrators, and archaeologists working far from the communities whose past they studied. But sites like Karin-Heegan remind us that the land itself preserves its own archive, one written not in books, but in stone. Despite the importance of these sites, much remains unknown. Dating rock art is complex. Archaeologists must analyze pigments, mineral deposits, and the surrounding sediments to estimate when paintings were created. Without careful research, the true age of places like Karin-Heegan cannot be known. Scientific study could reveal how ancient communities lived in these mountains, what animals they raised, how they adapted to shifting climates, and how those societies were connected to other cultures across the Red Sea and the wider Horn of Africa. Outside the cave, the landscape stretches toward the Gulf of Aden. For thousands of years, this coastline has connected Africa to Arabia, the Indian Ocean, and the wider world. Trade routes, migrations, and cultural exchanges passed along these shores long before modern states existed. Yet in the quiet hills above the coastline, caves like Karin-Heegan remain. Local communities have protected them quietly. Not enough formal institutions, but through cultural respect. One of the elders emphasized this responsibility.
waxaan u malaynayaa de kulli taariikh yar ma aha waa ummadii hore sawir ay dhigeen waana godad la ilaaliyo oo la ilaasho weeye waana godka taariikhda iyo taariikha ka horeeyaba soo jireenaha.
The drawings remain intact. The cave remains preserved. A fragile archive of history waiting to be studied. Long before maps, before borders, before the modern world, people lived here. They raised animals across these valleys. They watched the same mountains that stand here today. And at some moments in their lives, they stood before those stone walls and painted their world onto rock. Perhaps they hoped someone would remember them. Perhaps they simply recorded the life they knew. Thousands of years later, those images remain quiet, unfaded, waiting. It is a reminder that history of Somalia did not begin in the modern era. It began much earlier, written not in books, but in the stone walls of places like this.